So welcome, Isabel. My name is James Briner. I'm the technically challenged publisher and editor of My News Biz. For those of you who maybe missed this conversation because I screwed up on the way I presented the link. At any rate, we're glad Isabella is here, and it's another day of opportunity for all of us, I like to say. Isabella is a media entrepreneur. She and her partner, José María León, founded GK more than 10 years ago, and it's become a significant player in the media ecosystem of the country of Ecuador. Why I wanted to interview Isabella, a couple reasons. One is my goal is to share with um, news media entrepreneurs some business models that they can look at and maybe get some advice from, so that they could create viable, sustainable business models for their entrepreneurial media. In any case, I like to show examples of people who are doing things that with some ideas that you might find useful. So, Isabella, we met 10 years ago, but already your publication was up and running. Can you tell us a little bit about how you got started, how you met Jose Maria, the beginnings of your publication?
Of course. Thank you, James, for the invitation. So GK was founded in 2011, and I met Jose Maria via Twitter, actually. At that time was so different times than now, in which Twitter was like a nice place where you could meet people, like interesting people. And he had this idea of, I would say, more like a collective blog, like a citizen project more than a journalism project, and we came from different backgrounds. We were more people that wanted to talk about things that they were not mentioned in traditional media, such as abortion, same-sex marriage, drugs. So when it started, it was like very like revolutionary, and it was based in Guayaquil, the city I'm from, and Jose Maria is from. Now we're in Quito, but it was more like an opinion site, like analysis and op-eds, and we did some narrative journalism, but very little. And then we start growing and understanding what we have done, because it started like a side job. I used to work at that times in the biggest newspaper of Quito, and all of us had different jobs. So there is like this, I would say, like turning point, because I started working full time in GK in 2014 when we received donations that allowed us to quit our jobs. But we had no idea on how to start a business or what this meant, because in my university I never had a class of entrepreneur or information enterprise or something like that, and I had no idea. So we had to learn like a lot. If I think about that times, it seems like ages of how things have shifted.
And that was the year that you went to the Media Factory in Buenos Aires. I was one of the presenters and more or less the coaches at this media accelerator. And we spent about 2 weeks with a bunch of different media presenters,
Yeah.
so experts. And so what happened there?
Yeah, so there were 5 months, very intense. There was this call for applications of, as you mentioned, I was called Media Factory and Media Accelerator. It was absolutely new. It was 10 years ago. It seems like 10 years ago, we received the news that we were picked amongst like 120, I think, applications. And um, it was the first time we start thinking the project as a business, And I'm saying the first time because even though there were 5 months and a lot of, workshops and conversations, this takes time to understand and to really like realize why you need to consider it as a business and not like as a side job, or this idea of your journalists shouldn't manage money, or journalists shouldn't mess with advertisers and blah blah blah. It's funny listening to me saying these words because I was one of them.
Right.
I was
And for journalists, marketing is a dirty word. For
exactly,
journalists, the word monetize is a dirty word. For
exactly.
the word advertising is a dirty word. So yes, go ahead.
Until now, but that happened 10 years ago, and we were trying to figure out what to do. And obviously, we received, besides this training, we received an investment from MDIF, North Base Media, and NXTP Labs. And we had to have a plan. And obviously, we were like, yeah, we want to redesign the website, like a lot of editorial stuff. But we still didn't know how to develop the business part. So I say it was very important because when we came back to Ecuador, we said like, okay, we are going to apply everything that we learned. We're going to go and sell advertisement as at that time, you remember Policy Mike, that
Yes.
afterwards it was Mike. It was like trendy. And
Yes.
they did like this partnership with brands in which they like promote a value or something like, we care about technology, we care about whatever. They do this partnership, and they did content together. So we tried that, imagining that we will get like positive response. We had no idea, like no idea. It was at that time where in 2015 where we were struggling and seeing like how can we hold this, because after the media factory, the the donors that gave us money for 1 year said like, okay, now you're grown-ups, now you receive this investment and this and that, so we didn't have any more income. And that was the time in 2015 when, looking for ideas and things, Jose Maria went into a meeting of business people. It was like a selling pitch, a sales pitch, but he talked about what we do and what we did at the time. Like, we have always done like in-depth journalism, like in-depth and very high quality content, And at the time, I think we were using a lot of new tools, and he showed that. And after that meeting, someone called me from one of these companies and said, I really like your quality. How can I have that in my brand, as for my strategy? And this is how we start giving these services. We call it like editorial services, in which we applied our know-how as journalists, like reporting, interviews, the quality writing, the like doing gift, or at that time using ThingLink and other tools that allowed you to have like a very attractive display of images and such. And we took that know-how to third parties. And our first client, I think we did 4 articles per month of this type, like multimedia and blah, blah, blah. And we realized that was some sort of, not some sort of, but it was an interesting source of income. And long story short, after 9 years, like now, that's called GK Studio, which is our content agency, which is 50% or a little bit more of our revenue sources. It's sometimes it's more than half. We have this method, the storytelling method that comes from GK, our experience in GK, and take it to NGOs, foundations, big companies, etc., and help them with their communication strategies that are related many times to human rights or gender or things that we already do at GK, and other things as sustainability, and help them, for instance, to tell stories. The storytelling that we do very good in the media, we take it to our clients. So it's like in
That's
2000,
that studio, that particular
yeah,
kind of service is something like what the New York Times does. They had something where Orange is the New Black wanted to
Exactly.
run some ads.
Yeah.
And then so
It
so
yeah.
they did a
It,
story about women in prison.
yeah,
And
it's a mix. It's a
yes,
mix because that example, it's more related to editorial. But GK
yes,
Studio can, we have clients that has nothing to do with GK, the media. Take, for instance, UN Women. We develop key visual for a specific campaign. Then we develop some videos, some stories that we write. But those products are theirs. It's not for GK Media.
right.
It's only
Yes.
for them. But if they want us to publish in the media, we can do that kind of partnership and we can charge more for that. And that's a plus that not other agency has. This is why it's so important to understand your added value as a media that can provide communication services that you always will have your platform, even if it's your website or your social media, to expand the reach of what you're doing to your clients, and you treat them as clients, as ads. Not in all the cases, but you can do that, of course.
Do do any of your news customers, as it were, the people who consume your news, do any of them make a comment about that? Do they have any issues with it? Do they criticize you for that or in any way?
Yeah, for we have a client which is I don't know the word in English, but it's this hub of different companies. We call it Cámara de Industrias, and within that hub there is a mining company, for instance,
Ah,
and we cover a lot of social environmental issues at
ah,
GK. So when we publish this as we always, what is very important is to tag it, this is sponsored, it's paid content, and we do that. But some people, I think it was one or twice, that some people saw that and say like, why are you doing this if you know how this community have suffered and this and that? And I'm saying this is paid, and I'm also doing that, and I need to grow my company. And if they have no interference in my editorial part, that's okay. But this is me talking in 2024. Like many years ago, I would say like I would never, like interview some people that talk about their gender policies, but because
yes.
they're a mining company, I do not want to be with them. I was that before, but I'm trying to be practical.
One
I'm
of
trying to.
one of my bosses, when I was struggling with this kind of thing, in when I was publisher of the Baltimore Business Journal, and as you know, I also came from the editorial side, so
Yes.
I had that same kind of problem. His comment to me was, tell the client that if they want to be part of the conversation, they need to advertise, but we are also going to report on what you're doing, and we're not gonna pull any punches. We're gonna do it as accurately as we can.
I know there's a risk, I know, but what will remain at the end is independence. And
Yes.
when I mean independence, I just want to point out it's not only independence from politicians or from the government or from uh, big enterprises, but also from your friends. I'm doing quotations because your friends who are the NGOs, or like this people that are working pro human rights, etc., they think they can like interfere in your editorial. And I almost saying like, no, I mean, I'm independent from all of you, and at the end I will take the decision. And that's hard to understand for some people because there's a very thin line in activism and journalism. And I know it's a huge conversation, but I remember because what you said about, obviously, if you're writing a story about a community that is affected by oil, you have to go to the oil company and ask them. But there are some journalists, and I'm quotation because I don't think they're complete journalists if they don't go to the oil company and ask for their version or something, because that's like one-sided, and that's much more as an activist than a journalist.
What have you learned about your audience? What are they interested in? Um, how is are there different markets? Like, is Guayaquil a different market from, I'm
Yeah,
sorry,
no, Quito.
Quito.
Yeah. But
Okay.
no, I mean, at the beginning we were more niche, like we obviously was a much smaller audience in terms of numbers, but also in terms of demographics. Like, I more than half of our readers are women, and that's interesting. It will obviously depend on the product. If you say, for instance, newsletters, they're more men. If you said the Instagram, they're more women. But if you add and some, we have more women as our audience. I don't know if that has to do of how we produce things, because our team now, we're 20 people and 15 are women, uh, on GK's team, administrative and grant project management, and etc. But I feel that in the last years, because of the audience growing, you have more different kind of audience. You don't have the specific people that will follow you ideologically. So what we have, it's a lot of complaints from all the sides, like, why are you writing this if you wrote that the other week? And I'm confused, because people want to read their bias in a daily basis. Like, they sometimes people don't understand what's the mission of journalism. Like, we can do both. We can criticize both. It's like, why are you criticizing the president today, and tomorrow you criticize his opposition leader, whatever? And this is why I feel, with the comments and with the responses of our audience, it has become more mixed. And for me, that's great, because it's like, and dependent on your social media. In TikTok, we have obviously younger. In Instagram, we have this, that. We have identified what people look for in our Instagram. For instance, gender or environment, it's like a very good place to go. And on Twitter, or I mean X, it's politics. So there's like a bunch of interests, and we understand how that works. And we have a lot of people that might don't like what, for instance, our position on abortion, but they respect our work, and they will read what we do because they trust, because they see the quality, they see it has context, it's a deep investigation and whatever. So we try to be as plural, and I don't like the word objective, but like, bringing the
Yes.
whole picture together. And this is how you can bring audience from different places. They can criticize you, but at the end they can recognize that you're doing a good job, like it's
Okay.
useful for them.
You mentioned, okay, your audience, and I think I saw on your website that you have 5 channels of newsletters, and then you're in
Mhm.
various social media. And I believe you said you have a monthly audience of 1 million, roughly.
After I send you the screenshot of the media kit,
Yes.
I realized it was like more or less 2 million per month if you add the web page, social media, push notifications, newsletters, like the different channels in which we distribute our information, even WhatsApp channels.
And you mentioned that most of your revenue, or more than half of your revenue, comes from GK Studios. Um, what are some of your other major sources of revenue, and how have things changed over the last year, 2 years?
I would say, like, GK Studio, it's always 50 or a little bit more, at least 60. It has changed in the last years. And last year, for instance, grants increased. We had like an average in the last years of 12 to 15%, but last year it was 27% of grants. Then we have advertisement, like, not
Why was
tradition.
that? Why was that?
Why?
Why did it
I
go up, do you think?
In one part, it has to be, it's related to safety, because we received some grants because of the context of insecurity and safety in Ecuador. And we did like this event on safety of journalists. We at a grant for writing a protocol and stuff like that. And you know what the other one is? We had like this political crisis, and we also received grants to do that coverage, that political coverage, election coverage. Grants are always, that's a problem of grants, that they will depend.
What countries do these grants come from? Are they coming from within
The US.
Ecuador? The US mainly.
Yeah, no, we don't receive local. Like it's from the US. I would say we also have worked with German cooperation. Yeah, mainly. Once we did something with the UK embassy, but Ecuador is not like a country that receives so much grants from abroad for journalism. It's not that on the map. It's not like Central America that you have like all the cooperation is there fast. So we have GK Studio, advertisement, grants, GK School, we call it GK Escuela, which are workshops and trainings, different ways we do that. That is like 9%. And content is when we do like partnerships or alliances with third parties. It can be when we work in a transnational project with other media abroad, because we do a lot of collaborative journalism. Or there's like this NGO that wants to promote gender equality, and they say like, I have this fund and I want you to produce whatever contents you think can be useful to promote this idea. And they do not interfere editorially. They do not read the article before. It's just like a partnership. So that's content. And we have also the membership, which is very small, less than 1%. It's still, we have like now I think 150 members.
Would you care to talk about the perfect storm?
Yeah.
The perfect storm of there's a whole
Yes.
bunch of things that have happened.
Yeah, it's awful. So we're still suffering. Like I'm talking about the country, the media landscape, and GK. And I can like I'm going. Uh, we're still suffering, struggling the effects of COVID-19. You know, like one of the worst countries that was hit by the pandemic. Uh, Only 3 out of 10 people in Ecuador have a proper job. So it's a very deep economical crisis. And last year we had a political crisis in which we had elections 2 years before they should have happened. We didn't have Congress for 3 months because it was dissolved by the president in this political crisis. And why is this a problem economically? Also because you know local and international companies do not want to invest, so they are holding their hands in their pockets and waiting to see what's going to happen.
So they're
And we
not
had that.
advertising, and then
Exactly,
also the
they're not
NGOs and the NGOs are not giving their money. They're sending the money to
exactly.
Ukraine, they're sending the money to Gaza.
That's another issue, and that was before, when it was the invasion of Russia to Ukraine. We had these 2 contracts that they were like $70,000 both in January. We had like almost signed it, and then the war started, and they said like, we have to allocate this to Ukraine. And then Gaza had same speech last year, like, we were supposed to do this with you, but we can't do it now. So this is very like global context. But in local, the political crisis, you said no advertisement, no NGOs, but also no hiring services from GK Studio. You know, like we won't spend that now because we want to save in case what happens, in case which government comes. But adding that is a security crisis. You also, or maybe the majority of you, what happened in January, that there was this TV station that was kidnapped live, and that was like the when everything exploded security wise. We knew what was going on, obviously, but that put us more at risk. And the people that were scared to invest because of the political crisis, they were saying like, hell no, we won't do it now or until things can get a little bit stabilized and calmer. So it's like security, economic, politics, wars, and as a citizen. But as a journalist, it's like triple worse, because you have to take care of yourself, you have to work the double of the time. And it has been like very rough month, I would say more than a year, that has been like a lot.
If you had it to do all over again, go back 10 years, go back 12 years, um, knowing what you know now about the difficulties of being an entrepreneur and being an
Mhm.
independent journalist, is there anything that you would change? Is there anything you would do differently? Would you still do it?
I will still do it, but I wish I would have known everything that I know now 10 years ago, to avoid the numerous mistakes I've made. um, I would definitely have thought better the business model that we have now. Having it at that time, it would be like a whole different story. And you know what, we have changed like a lot, to have clear KPIs from the beginning, like
KPIs,
measuring
KPIs being what?
key
Performance
performance
indicator,
indicators.
key
Yeah,
performance indicators.
yeah, like measuring everything, reporting everything, tracking everything. We started doing that like 5 years ago, and we have like improved a lot in the last years, and that has helped us to strategize and to have like, last year we have to we have a smaller team now because we had to let go some people, but still we ended the year better, traffic wise and strategy wise, because we start to making this, even though they're hard decisions, but trying to think the best for the organization, and measuring and reporting and making decisions like data driven. That's what I would have want to learn before.
Okay. Okay. All right. Anything else?
I mean, I think this is a very hard year, and I know I made like a lot of mistakes, and it's I told you I would do it all over again, but fixing those mistakes that led me to more mistakes. Um, but it requires like a lot of energy. If I had to give some piece of advice, if someone wants to start a project, and I mean, because when you like a project like I do, like we do, you want to see it grow. We were two people, and then we're 20. Besides all the problems and things, it's like I really feel proud about this. I know I could have done much better, make more less mistakes, but at the end, it's something that pays off, like like spiritually. I don't know, like it's still something that I really get excited doing, and until the day I don't feel that way, I think that would be like I need to find someone that replaces me.
Well, listen, I really appreciate your taking time to talk with me, and I'm sure that the readers of the newsletter will appreciate your comments. I'll include some data that you gave me in the notes. But thank you very much. I
No,
really
thank you,
appreciate
James,
it.
for the invitation. I hope I can see you soon.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
Ciao.
Ciao.